Hello guys, today we are looking at my jungle tier list for patch 6.1D. So you guys know which champions you should be banning and first picking every single game. Alright, first and foremost, which champs do I think are the best to 1v9 with right now? I think these first three, Aatrox, Riven and Viego, are really the best of the best right now. Aatrox has so much healing, and if you've ever seen a fed Aatrox, you know if he presses ult, he can one-shot your entire team and go from 0 HP back to full in one auto attack. So you always need to be careful of this guy. And the other thing is, I feel like he's not too hard to pilot, right? Obviously you need to be hitting your first abilities every now and then, but in terms of damage and survivability, he really has it all. And you'll see quite a common theme with the best champions. They all go a similar sort of build. They're going to be going Trinity, they're going to be going Sundered Sky, that sort of thing. All of the good tanky bruisery items which give you health, resistances, and obviously damage as well. Then the next one is Riven. Again, similar to Aatrox in the sense that she can just be a 1v9 demon. The main reason for this, and similar to Aatrox, they both have resets on their ultimates, right? So if Aatrox gets a kill while he's ulting, his ult resets and he gets the bonus AD and move speed. And with Riven, obviously, if she gets a kill, she gets a reset on her ultimate, which does a lot of damage. So those two champs, really good bruisery team fighting champs. And guess what? Surprise, surprise, the next champ we have is also a reset champ, Viego. So Viego is pretty self-explanatory why he's so strong. What you want to do is you want to build him crit, so you do a lot of damage. You want to one-shot someone, turn into them, and then use all their abilities and then ult onto someone else. And yeah, I think it should be pretty self-explanatory why having resets is broken, because you already have a champion like Riven who can do a lot of damage, and now you're just giving her a way to do even more damage, so she doesn't even have to wait for her cooldowns. And that's why a lot of these you can sort of get away with not being the best mechanically. Obviously the best Rivens will be significantly better than an okay Riven, but the fact that you get away with a lot of things because you get your resets. If you mess up the combo slightly, it's fine. You get a reset on ult that does half the HP anyway, so you just throw it out. And number 4, we have Ambessa. So I want to make this clear. Ambessa is getting reworked, right? I think she's getting reworked on the 26th of June. But as of right now, she hasn't been reworked, and I feel like she's been flying under the radar a little bit. Why is Ambessa OP again? Well, guess what? When she gets a takedown, she gets reset on all of her abilities. I think we're seeing a bit of a trend here. And yeah, it's the same with all the other champions. Getting resets on your abilities is so OP because the whole point of, you know, abilities is they have cooldowns, so you can't just spam them all the time unless you're playing Earth. So you just go in with ult, you kill one person with your abilities, and then you have abilities again. It's crazy the amount of times I've just ulted under a tower and then just gone W, which is the shield, to kill someone, and then just W again to tank another tower shot. So it's kind of crazy, but yeah, I think those 4 are definitely the best of the best. And then I have to put Amumu in here as well, obviously. I think even though he got nerfed a little bit, he is still very strong. He clears very quickly, which is one of the main downsides of tanks. They clear quite slowly, but Amumu has very fast clear still. And he actually does very well into all of the bruisers that I have just mentioned because he's so tanky, and he actually does quite a bit of damage as well. And on top of that, he has very good CC for his team, so he can peel very well. So the main reason I'm putting him this high is because he's easy to play and he does very well into the other champs, which are very good. And rounding out the best champions to 1v9 with, we have Nocturne. So Nocturne, I wouldn't say he can build exactly the same as the other champs in here, but the main reason that he's so strong is his ultimate. Late game, just making people unable to see and just dashing on the enemy ADC or enemy mid laner and just one-shotting them is very strong, because at the end of the day, it's much easier to win a 4v5 than a 5v5, right? So as Nocturne, you can just confuse the enemy by making them unable to see, and just go in and pick someone off, and then you should be able to win the team fight from there. Okay, so the next one, next tier we have our OP champs, which are still easy to play as well. I think this is a good one, so I would mention that I think the champs in the top tier, apart from Amumu, are a little bit harder to play. I think Ambessa and Nocturne not too difficult, but the other three do require a little more understanding, whereas these champs over here are pretty, I don't want to say brain dead if anyone mains these champs, but you could pick them up quite quickly. So the first one we have is Vi. Vi, pretty self-explanatory. If you've ever been against a Vi, you know how easy it is for them to just Q and then ult and chase you down the entire map. Very OP champ. And then we have Wukong as well. He just does a lot of damage, but the reason why he's not in the 1v9 tier is because guess what, he doesn't have any resets. But that is really all there is to it. Again, Warwick, very good, but lacks the resets. He can ult on someone. He does have probably one of the most disgusting combos. If you time your third ability, which is the Fear, and your ultimate right, you can CC someone for about 2.5 seconds and they're insta-dead. There's nothing, there's literally no counterplay to it, because even stuff like Cleanse and Veil and the QSS don't work on it. Then we have Xin Zhao, another pretty simple one, can go bruisery, more tanky build, but again just doesn't have resets, right? Pantheon, very good actually into some of the champs like Riven and Aatrox, because he does so much damage. He does an absurd amount of damage once he gets 2 items with like Yomu's and Blade of the Ruined King. So yeah, again, he does have a lot of assassination potential, but sometimes what you need are champs which have that extra bit of survivability as well, which Pantheon often doesn't have. If you go in and kill someone, you are probably going to die as well. Next we have Hecarim. Hecarim, I would say very strong actually. I think all of these champs, as you can tell, all sort of bruisery champs, and that's just because bruisers right now in the meta are very good, and they give you that sort of leeway to make a few mistakes and not get punished for it because you're not super duper squishy. But yeah, nothing too interesting to say about Hecarim. Good ganks, probably one of the better gankers out of the bruisers, but late game it can be a bit hard to pilot him because he doesn't quite do as much damage as, let's say, a Riven Aatrox. And then obviously we have Nunu. Can never go wrong with Nunu. So obviously I always play him AP, but I think playing him tank as well, he is basically just a slightly worse version of Amumu. So it's up to you what you prefer playing. Even though you might not be doing as much damage as tank Nunu, you're still going to be doing it's still going to be fun to roll snowballs into people for sure. Alright, so this next tier is champs which are inherently very, very strong, and you might typically see them in other lanes performing well, but you do have to know what you're doing and have at least a decent bit of experience on the champion to make sure you don't completely run it down. So I'll go through this quickly. Lee Sin, pretty self-explanatory, a very good champ. The only reason he's not in the tier above is because a lot of his abilities are skill shots, so you do actually have to know how to aim in some regard, and also how to use his ultimate efficiently to actually secure kills and play team fights well. Zed, again, very, very strong champ, but you do have to be able to use your ultimate and your shadows very well so that you don't get caught. Again, a lot of these champs are just more risky, more high risk, high reward than the champs in the tiers above. For example, with Zed, yeah, you really have to use your whole combo on someone with ult, everything, just to kill the ADC maybe. But with Aatrox or Riven, you kill the ADC and it's as if you've used nothing, right? Because you still have ult, you still have all your abilities and everything. Similarly, we have Yone, again, a very strong champ in general. I think Yone and Yasuo are very good right now. But yeah, Yone in the jungle, a little bit of a slower clear, puts him, he is just, I think, better in lane. Next we have Rengar and Kha'Zix, both pretty reasonable champs. Often these are the sort of champs where if you see someone pick them, you probably think they're pretty good at the game. So I think you do need to know how to play it properly. Like Kha'Zix has a very good 1v1 potential, so you need to know how to play around that. And with Rengar, similar to like Nocturne, you need to know how to go and assassinate someone and then go and get out and be able to play the rest of the team fight. Next we have Irelia. Irelia, you don't see her that often. Again, it's more of a one-trick type of champion, but can be very strong if you snowball your lead. Fiora got some buffs recently, and I played against Fiora in top lane like a few days ago. It was not fun. I do think that champion is busted, but I think she will still be best in top lane because her trading mechanics, trading combo is just so OP. Next we have Talon, again a little under the radar and not really much to say. He's in a similar boat to Lee Sin, does require a little bit more knowledge and mechanics to play in terms of how to assassinate someone and then get out again with your jumping over the wall ability, but yeah, no resets unfortunately. And then we have Kindred, again an ADC in the jungle, so scales quite well, but you need to know how to play around her marks and make sure you're getting the most of her scaling. Jace, another one, not too bad in the early game, but typically just because the clear isn't that good, it's quite an uncommon pick, but can definitely still be played. Jax got some buffs recently with his W doing more damage to monsters now, but his clear is still quite slow, and again I feel like Jax is probably just better in top lane than in the jungle. Lilia, very strong champ. You could debatably put Lilia up here in the top for 1v9ing, but I'm putting her over here. The main reason she could be up there is because she is probably the best AP champion to play in the jungle right now in terms of 1v9 potential, but just no resets. And I know it is annoying because these reset mechanics are really very strong, but yeah, I mean, if you think about it, it's just really hard to compete with that, you know? Like, why would I pick a champion which can't just reset all their abilities when they get a kill, or can't just have unlimited ultimates, you know? But anyways, Lilia still does a lot of damage, very good into tanks and stuff, so a very good pick if you need some AP on your team. Diana, Gragas, worse versions of Lilia to be honest. Good AP one-shot potential, but yeah, not quite doing as good of a job as Lilia. But Diana did get a buff recently, so she is going to be slightly more playable. Mordekaiser, again, not someone you normally see in the jungle, but if you know what you're doing, you can definitely make him work. And then we have Graves, Nyla, two very hyper scaling champions, so it's less about necessarily knowing how to play them, it's more about knowing what to do in the game to get you into a position where you are able to carry the game. Then the next thing we have is some very solid champs, but because the jungle has so many OP champions, I feel like if you play these champs, you're putting yourself at a slight disadvantage. I think Jarvan, pretty reasonable champ, as is Shyvana. Evelynn did get buffed recently, but it's just, I don't know, her assassination playstyle, it is tricky, and I feel like we've gotten to the point where people know that they can spam pink wards against Evelynn, and it kind of ruins her entire game plan. Echo, not bad, could even be over here, maybe I'm being overly harsh. Yeah, actually let's put him up here. I feel like he is quite a good champ, but there's only so much you can do. Again, he's more of like a go in, one shot, and then get back out type of character. Now Master Yi does have that 1v9 potential, but I feel like because he's, I don't want to say a simple champion to play, because he doesn't have that much in his kit that allows him to outplay apart from his W, it makes it easier to counter, right? Whereas a champ like Riven or Aatrox have lots of dashes and CC and stuff like that. But on the whole, he's definitely not a bad champ. As I said, this is good but not best. Mundo, again, not bad. I think generally these tanks, they don't work that well in the jungle, or more like there's no need to play them in the jungle because you can't stack things like Heartsteel, which you might want to build on them, and your ganks aren't really very good, right? Same with Volibear. I think he's perfectly fine top. Shen, you could debate being better in jungle than top. I think he does have very good laning. However, his wave clear is just terrible. So he is pretty reasonable in jungle, but again, I think if we're talking about carrying games, and remember this tier list is more from like a solo queue perspective. Obviously, if you have a really good ADC, then having Shen could be very helpful, but if you're just trying to play for yourself, I think there are definitely better champs you could pick than Shen. Finally, we have Nautilus. Again, pretty reasonable, could even be put over here, but I feel like he's an assassin, a very risky assassin. For example, like someone like Echo can ult out once they potentially get a kill. With Nautilus, if you kill someone and your team is not there to follow up, you are a bit cooked. Now, finally, we have champs that can be OP, but in very certain situations. Olaf, very, very good into low mobility, high CC comps, but the reason why he's not that good is because I feel like his playstyle is probably the most one-sided thing you've ever seen. Like, as Olaf, what you have to do is run in a straight line at the enemy, doesn't matter how many they are, and try and kill everyone. Because as soon as you don't have ultimate, you're so useless. I've never seen a champion be more useless without their ultimate than Olaf. But yeah, next we have Rammus. Rammus is very good into heavy AD comps with lots of auto attackers. So if they pick like an ADC mid and maybe like a Yasuo Yone top, then this could be a very, very good champ to pick indeed. Next we have Gwen, good into tanks, but you don't see her too much otherwise because she has pretty slow clear. Again, probably just better in top or mid. Then we have Kayn, pretty good blue Kayn and red Kayn, to be honest. I think blue Kayn probably could be maybe even over here. Could be over here. But red Kayn, I think, while it can be OP, it's really, really OP in certain situations. But yeah, you know what? I think we'll put Kayn over here. I think that's fair, because you need to know when to go which form, and more importantly, like when it's actually a good time to pick Kayn. Red Kayn is very good into tanky, more bruisery type champs because your damage is crazy and your sustain is crazy. I really like Kayn into like Aatrox Riven actually. And blue Kayn is very good if they have a lot of ranged squishy champs. Then we have Darius. Again, you know, I was gonna say situationally can be OP, but really he's just don't play him in the jungle now that I think about it. The issue with Darius is he can get kited so easily, and I feel like he's one of those champions where you need Flash and Ghost to be able to play team fights well, and obviously if you're in the jungle you have to take Smite, so that kind of puts you at a bit of a disadvantage. Then we have Kayle. I think she is really only good in low elo. That's basically it. If you're playing in elos like Emerald, where people don't know what to do and they just like to fight all the time, and you have the opportunity to just farm and scale for free, then you'll be able to do really well with Kayle. Then finally we have this bottom tier. Yeah, champs which are really just not very good at all. Morgana, yeah, the only good thing, she has reasonable clear, but like the ganks are average, and yeah, there's really not too much that makes her like stand out as a jungler. Fiddlesticks can be good, but the issue with him is his gameplay again is so one-dimensional. You have to ult to engage in a team fight, right? You're useless if you don't ult, and you have to ult from out of vision. So you have to know where you can stand, where you're out of vision, and hope that the enemy aren't using their brain and warding places you might be. Then we have Fizz. I think maybe I'm being a little bit harsh putting him down here. He can go over here. Again, he's one of those assassin champs. He can go in, do a lot of damage, but kind of hard for him to get out again. And finally, we have Tryndamere. Yeah, again, not really too much to say about this. He has a quite one-dimensional playstyle as well. You go in and you just whack people, and then if you're gonna die, you press ult, and you have to hope you press ult before you die. Because I've seen a lot of Tryndamere players not do that, and then your champ is very, very useless. But yeah, to summarize, if you guys want to learn jungle and you want to pick some champs, pick up some champs which are going to be good for quite a while, most likely, I definitely recommend Aatrox, Riven, and Viego. If you feel like more comfortable and you want to have more fun and feel like you're outplaying the enemy, then I'll definitely recommend one of these three. Remember, Ambessa is going to get reworked soon, and at that point we'll obviously have to see what happens, but she could very well become unplayable in the jungle. But if you're not feeling like any one of these, I would recommend basically any one of these guys in the OP easy to play champs. Vi is probably the most reliable one to start with, to be honest. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of the tier list. I think I should have gotten all the junglers in, but let me know if I've missed anyone and what you guys think of the tier list, if you agree, who you think should be higher or lower. And yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.